In my practice, I feel like the visual language is very abstract and geometric, and that's very similar to like traditional Islamic art. And so I do take a lot of like the principles that come with Islamic art in that, like the abstraction and geometric. But the visual language itself with the shapes and the colors, I feel like I'm taking more inspiration from like the Western world that I grew up in, and like media and different like design and things like that I was always just exposed to that I really liked. So it's like kind of bringing those two worlds together in with like the abstraction and then the colors and shapes that I like to use.
MARN's current exhibition, called Reflecting My Muslim Americanism, is a deep dive into identity, mental health, and belonging from the perspective of local Muslim artists. This exhibition was curated in conjunction with Fanana Banana, a collective of Muslim artists working for Muslim artist visibility in Milwaukee, and many of the artists in this exhibition have appeared at previous Fanana Banana shows. At the beginning of this exhibition, we interviewed Amel Azam and Naifa Naji, co-founders of Fanana Banana, about why they started the collective and what this exhibition means to them. You can find that interview on our website and on YouTube. Today, though, we're bringing you brief interviews with 5 of the 9 artists in the exhibition about their work. Each artist will speak for about 10 to 12 minutes on their works in the exhibition, talking about their process, feedback they've received, and what the works mean to them. Dunia Amer, Mariam Ali, Rida Fatima, Nidal Jaber, and Rabia Tayyabi touch on themes of mental health, experimentation, hidden narratives, and nostalgia for place and past in this series of conversations, highlighting the individuality and the dynamism of Muslim art in Milwaukee in 2022. To start us off, here's Rabia.
Hi, my name is Rabia Tayyabi. I am a new media artist who's currently getting my MFA at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I work mostly in a code-based process where I take geometric animations and transform them into prints, installations, sculptures. I take a lot of inspiration from South Asian textiles, landscapes, cityscapes, and like kind of look at the abstraction in those spaces and how the layering and movement come together, and use that to inform my creative process.
Let's get into the works that you have hanging in our current exhibition, reflecting my Muslim Americanism. There's 3 works that are, I guess, if I could, I'll describe them very basically, and then kind of let you talk about them and fill in the blanks of what I missed. So there's, they hang vertically from the wall. There's three works from left to right called Sequential Patterns, Irreducible Instability, and Unnecessary Orbit. And I see a lot of blues, pinks, yellows, greens, and a lot of, I guess I would say like kind of like sharp shapes, like a lot of triangles. But yeah, I'll let you take it from here.
All right. So I think the colors are just, in my practice, I feel like the visual language is very abstract and geometric, and that's very similar to like traditional Islamic art. And so I do take a lot of like the principles that come with Islamic art in that, like the abstraction and geometric. But the visual language itself with the shapes and the colors, I feel like I'm taking more inspiration from like the Western world that I grew up in, and like media and different like design and things like that I was always just exposed to that I really liked. So it's like kind of bringing those two worlds together in with like the abstraction and then the colors and shapes that I like to use. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm first off, I asked you to talk about the artwork and how it looks, but actually I want to go back to those titles again. Sequential Patterns, Irreducible Instability, and Unnecessary Orbit. So I'm sensing some themes. There's like you like 2-word titles, and you like kind of we were talking about this before the interview, but kind of provocative words that invite the viewer to kind of come to their own conclusions. Kind of provocative words that point you in a direction, but not to a specific point or a specific conclusion.
Yes, I like having titles that, again, provoke some sort of thought and like kind of not necessarily like catch you off guard, but like kind of like you read it and it kind of is like gets you to kind of think something, and it might shift what you were thinking about before you saw the title. So I do like kind of having that provocative title, but I do also want it to not force you into a specific area or a specific thought process. Sometimes I do like to do that, but usually I want it to like be something that guides you to the artwork but doesn't tell you exactly where to go, because I personally don't need people to get to the same place that I do when they're looking at my artwork. I do like the idea of people kind of having their own journey when looking towards the artwork or looking at the artwork. And like, I think what I really enjoy is like having conversations with people and talking about the things they notice and the things that they're liking about the artwork. And I think that helps me like kind of understand I think I like that like conversation, just because I work really abstractly. There's a lot of layers. It's like sometimes I don't catch something that other people catch. Yeah. And so I like having that kind of dialogue with people about the artwork, just because it can kind of, I don't know, I think their stories and their like interactions with the artwork are always really interesting to me. Yeah. But with these specific titles, I think I was reflecting on like my mental health journey of the last like year or so. And so like sequential patterns, which is the first piece, it's
the one on the far left, hanging at least right now on the far left, right?
Yes. That one was more just about talking about like habits that you get into that aren't necessarily good for you, that kind of become like, I don't know, I think things especially you develop as a young person, and now I'm 28 and I'm like, oh, these weren't the best habits for me to be doing all this time. And so it's very like, relatable. Yeah, so it's like, oh, how can I start eating healthy and more regularly, and like kind of breaking out of those, just those habits that I've gotten into, and thinking about that. And then when we go to the middle piece, irreducible instability, that one is about kind of getting to the point where you're like, I don't want to keep getting to this point, like keep staying here or doing these things. So you're like, all right, I'm at this irreducible state in life where I'm like, I don't want to keep going down, or like keep like, so you choose to like do better, get help, and like kind of correct these habits and things that you've been doing, that you've been getting into. And then the same goes for unnecessary orbit, which is just like those cycles that you get into that kind of make it really difficult for you to kind of break out of those habits and those things that you've been doing your entire life that aren't the best for you. So it's like kind of, they're all really related in that like mental health journey of like realizing these patterns and habits and cycles in your life, and realizing that like if you want to get better, you do need to like either get help or like break past them in order to get to a better state of life.
And in the description of the works that's next to that's in the exhibition next to the works, if I remember right, it mentioned as part of your process that you use like loops in your code, which as you're talking about kind of patterns of mental health and like getting kind of stuck in loops, stuck in patterns. I guess I'm reaching, but it seems I noticed the consistency between your process and then kind of like what you're trying to say with these. Yes, I think my process in itself is very ritualistic, and like I do a lot of the same steps like over and over again, and I let it then becomes like this ritualistic process that I go through, but the outcomes then become very different. I think I am in that same process kind of over and over again, but the pieces that I make are very reflective of kind of what I was going through, or what like I was maybe like drawn to in that moment of making the piece. And so I think they're very reflective of just like, hey, this is where I was at in this particular moment.
But then, yeah, like that process is still kind of the same.
Well, and you mentioned earlier about how there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on, and a lot of different directions that you can take the artwork. And so, like, you might have an idea of what it provokes in you, but I'm curious if you've gotten. If you've had a chance to have conversations with folks who have seen these particular works that came to different conclusions, or maybe came to similar conclusions, but like in a totally different direction.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I don't have any specific...
This puts you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm like trying to remember. I have had several conversations, but I think I can't remember if anyone came to like a slightly different conclusion. I think when I was talking about these works, people were just interested in knowing my like story, and we didn't get into that part of the conversation. So no, I don't have anything specific about these pieces.
Those kinds of questions, when someone asks me like, has anyone ever done this? It's like kind of overwhelming with me. Like, man, you want me to remember forever right now? So I did kind of put you on the spot there. How about this? I know, as of now, 2 of these 3 have sold.
Yes.
So, and I take that to mean like someone saw these, and I can't help but kind of put thoughts in their mind, I guess, of like they bought this because it's like, I just want to look at this and figure it out. Like I just need time, and the only way, I can't stand here forever. Yeah. So I want to buy this, and I need time to kind of pull it apart. But kind of running up on time. So I want to give you the chance to have the final word. So this can be about these 3 works. This can be about you as an artist, how people can find you on social media or wherever. Again, just some kind of like final word that you want to leave listeners with. I want to give you the chance to do that before I let you go.
Yeah, I think the best way to keep up to date with what I'm doing is on my Instagram at Tayyabi Rabia. It's where I update everything. And then like my website has some stuff as well, but I'm not great at I'm better at just Instagram stories is where I kind of am updating the most about what's going on.
Cool. All right. Well, Rabia, thank you again for making some time for us, and thank you for sharing your art with us in this exhibition.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right.
My name is Nidal Jaber. I'm a 25-year-old Palestinian American, born and raised in Milwaukee. Still live here, still work here. I believe the long-term plan is to stay here because I love the city.
You do have a Milwaukee Tool jacket on right now, so you're repping.
I do have a Milwaukee Tool jacket. I've been working at Milwaukee Tool for about 2 years now. My initial start with art was digital art. I used to make illustrations of artists I liked. So from there, basically, this coping painting, the one that was submitted recently to the MARN, is my first official painting of my own, where it's not a picture of something else. It's not a copy of something. So then that happened. I painted it, and then the show got canceled because of COVID, and this piece has been sitting in my room for the last 2 years. And I use it as like a cheating painting, in the sense of anytime there's an art show, I can just take the same painting over and over again. That's a good one. I appreciate it.
It's a cheat code, I think.
It is a cheat code. And, I mean, kind of bittersweet. The piece sold, which was awesome. This is my first, I've sold anime pieces in the past, and those are all commissions or anything like that. But this is the first painting of mine that's sold. Yeah. So now I don't have a cheating painting anymore, or a cheat painting anymore. So now I actually have to paint something else. So I've been kind of brainstorming with that, looking into that. But that was my long-winded introduction.
Well, no, long-winded, but a good one. But I do, So you mentioned the painting that is in our current exhibition, reflecting My Muslim Americanism. It's called Coping, and I'll give a kind of a cursory description of what I'm seeing, kind of very non-technical description, and I'll let you kind of dive into backstory and process and what you're trying to do with it and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'm seeing here is a word search with some words highlighted. So the highlighted words are sometimes you have to get rid of everything. And then there's within the word search, but not highlighting any particular words, is an outline of, it looks like someone holding their face in their hands. And I guess it's fair to say kind of a sad, downtrodden, I guess coping kind of look. So that's kind of a basic description, but I wanted to give you the chance to just take it away and kind of just talk about this piece. You mentioned it's kind of a cheating painting. It's the first one that you've made that is sold. Obviously, it's made an impression on at least someone, right? Yeah. But yeah, just talk about this painting, backstory, history, whatever you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think there really are two major things that come with this painting, and I hadn't actually put it into words until someone had asked me about it. But again, in the words, you'll see that the highlighted sentence is sometimes you have to get rid of everything. And with the title of coping, that's kind of how I would define my own coping. Getting rid of everything. And I don't mean in the physical sense, I mean more internally.
Sure.
But rather, anytime I've struggled with something, the healthiest way or the easiest way, or what I deem as the best way so far for myself in making progress, is if what I'm currently doing isn't working, or the way I'm currently thinking isn't taking me the way I want to go, I just start over. And I've found, I would say, success in it, because I'm fairly, I would say it's led me to become who I am today. And obviously, I'm not perfect, even in my own standards. Everybody's mean to themselves, but it's definitely helped a lot. So I think that was the first part. And then the second part was that I feel like a lot of people are in their heads a lot. And in talking to my friends and talking to coworkers, and in any conversation I've had with someone, when it comes to kind of those deeper conversations of like, what's going on, what's stressing you out, a lot of the times it's, I don't know. And the reason I feel like people say I don't know is because there's too much going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what I've found success with myself has been, okay, you got 50 things going on in your head and they're stressing you out. Let's pick one. If you're struggling with the 50, you won't even be able to focus on one and realize, like, okay, what's next for that one? So take one and acknowledge it. And I've found that that's been pretty helpful for myself in terms of dealing with things. Like, okay, hey, I'll have a day where I'm sitting and I'm stressed, and I have to ask myself, like, okay, why are you stressed? And then my answer to myself is always, I don't know. So I'll take a look at my day and I'll be like, okay, do I have anything that's coming up that's stressing me out? Or did I have anything that happened to me that's stressing me out? Do I have anything next week? Whatever. But then once I figure out what it is and I sit down and I'm like, it's really not that bad. It's like, all right, well, there's 1 out of 50, boom, dealt with. So having that and just kind of going through the major themes has always been a big thing. So the idea with this painting is, yeah, you have the word search where you kind of have to look for what's going on.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because as you're describing, as you're talking, I'm looking at, I mean, it's a word search, right? So that it's fundamentally like a bunch of gibberish and a bunch of kind of unorganized characters, just like things kind of floating around. And especially with your depiction of, again, someone holding their face in their hands, it's a bunch of just nonsense floating around. It can be just like hard to grasp. And so as you're describing kind of your process for when you're stressed, I can see why you chose a word search to depict that. It's like taking pieces that make sense, or taking pieces and then making sense of those pieces from a larger, just kind of chaotic swirl around your face. So I guess I don't really have a question, other than it was more of a just kind of like, I hear what you're saying, and I can see it in this piece. I'm
glad.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad. I will be honest, I didn't even I didn't really make the full connection for what it meant until Emma of the Fanana group. She asked me, she's like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this piece? And I'm like, okay, well, that entails me opening up. And I'm like, all right, whatever, we're doing it.
It's like, if I have to, I guess.
No, but I mean, and even when I was interacting with people during the show, a lot of people were asking me what the piece meant. Yeah. And I was just talking. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in reality, me explaining this stuff is not necessarily opening up, but rather explaining, like, okay, like, what works for you, right? This piece has been up at a few other shows, and I obviously have that quality in me where I'll be looking at people looking at my piece, and I'm just like, oh, how are they responding to it? And then, yeah, it's really good. So yeah. I like people talking about it, and we had people spending time there, and I was like, okay, I'm glad it's making you think.
Yeah. So what was one of those other shows that this one's been at that you mentioned, the We Are MKE show on Mitchell? Yeah. That was one I remember this one from that show. And it was one of the ones that stood out, and I was one of the people looking at it for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, just kind of like, oh yeah, there's something here, and I want to like sit here until because I'm not ready to move on, like that kind of feeling. Yeah. And maybe you were doing the same thing. I was also watching the watchers for this one as well. Like, ooh, absolutely. Who else is this striking a chord with? Yeah. And I was definitely not the only one. And so I don't really have a question with this statement, but I just think like I just wanted to, share at least my experience of seeing, not only has it made me stop in my tracks, but it's definitely I'm not the only one that it's done that for. So again, no question there. Just wanted to put that out there.
I appreciate you telling me that. I think that I'm not going out of my way to make paintings. I'm not like spending a lot of time on my art, which is good, neither good or bad, whatever, right? The idea is that if I do make something, that it at least says something to people, right? And I will like happily say that I'm glad that this has done that for people. I've had great conversations with random strangers, and we've just opened up about things that like, it's like, all right, yeah. So I kept making the joke that if anybody was staring at my piece too long, that I was like, I hope everything is okay with you.
Yeah. So, maybe I have to have to get rid of everything or something to make it all make sense. But I could talk about this for forever, just give you compliments about this forever. But thanks, I will wrap it up and give you a chance to have the final word. So if there's some place that you would like, a social media that you'd like to plug, website that you'd like to plug, or just something that you'd like to leave listeners with before I let you go, I want to give you the chance to do it.
Sure. I'm not necessarily active on social media at all. I treat my art social media as more of a collection as opposed to an art account. Mm-hmm. It's at Nidal Your Help. The idea is like and then it's like need all your help.
Okay.
And it's like
a
double
there's
entendre.
Something here, but I'm too slow for it. But okay, yes.
And then it's like Nidal, your help. So I am your help.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't use it frequently. I'm like, I tell that to everybody. The intention is like, don't go follow this expecting like new things. Just
help.
Just
all the help.
Just all the help. No, just it's solely a collection. And I'm not active on it. Like I will only post on it once I paint something, and I do not paint frequently. Right. However, there is pressure to paint more now that this one's gone, and I can't cheat about it anymore.
Yep.
But
buy Nidal's work so he makes more work.
No, that's not.
That's what I'm getting from this.
What would I leave the listeners with? I don't know. I would say that a lot of times I've been guilty of this myself, especially with shows in the past, where I'll walk past art and I'll look at it like, that's cool, and then I'll walk on. Mm-hmm. I would challenge any art enjoyer to take time with each piece. If there's some sort of description, which I was very happy with here at this past show about having description to kind of define everything, take the time to read that and relate to it if you can, right? I felt that after I started doing that, I was able to connect a little bit more with both the art and the artist, and it definitely helped create dialogue when I ended up meeting the artist. So yeah, if I were to leave anything with the listeners, I'd say just take more time, focus on the art, see how it works for you, and then also like take care of yourself. So that's what I have.
Well, that's a good note to end on. Thank you, Nidal, and thank you, Nidal, for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you guys.
So my name's Mariam Ali. I'm currently a senior at Marquette University, majoring in advertising, and I minored in graphic design at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. So a little bit about me is like my parents, they're from Pakistan. They immigrated here in 1990 to America, and they originally moved to New York, and they had my brother, and I was born in Milwaukee. So yeah, that's a little bit background about me. I guess I'm a product of immigration. So that's kind of what influences my work a bit, is like that cultural aspect about me, and why I like take pride in that in my artwork. So recently in my artwork, I try to incorporate more of like my cultural part of me, like the Pakistani or just being Muslim into it, to show like what I'm proud of and everything.
I'm sure there's a lot more we can go into there, but I did want to talk about one piece in particular that you have in our current exhibition, reflecting my Muslim Americanism, and it's called Muhammad, and it is a print, a black and white print with an orange sunburst of a famous, even those who haven't. Aren't fans of boxing may have probably seen this image somewhere around, but it's Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston after a knockout in a fight, and it's kind of become a symbol. It's a symbol of so much, but it's a symbol of triumph, a symbol of just kind of like when people think of Muhammad Ali, this is kind of the image that they see, but. I'll let you kind of talk about it a little bit more. I know that was kind of like a very basic description of what this piece is. Can you tell me a little bit more about why, about your process behind it, and why you were interested in capturing this moment in this way?
Yeah, so the process behind it, I recently like got into like comic style type of things. So I originally was trying to imitate like a lithogram type of print. So the closest thing I could do was like do it on block print, because I remember doing it back in middle school. So I mean, this is like the first time I'd done this in like years. So like I just drew it on my iPad and then transferred the designs, and I carved it out, which carving took like 10 hours. It took me a long time, but the work, it paid off because of the detail and printing of it,
for sure.
Which I'm happy with. And the reason why I kind of chose this moment of Muhammad Ali in the print is that I was again like inspired by like having like, a positive Muslim like influencer in my artwork and stuff. So this kind of like the first thing I thought of was Muhammad Ali, because like he's most influential like Muslim like out there with his boxing and everything. And also like another reason too I felt kind of connected to this piece is like I'm also like do boxing in my free time. I'm part of Marquette University's boxing club, so it's kind of how like I was like, oh, boxing, and I was like, oh, also Muhammad Ali, like, you know, goes pretty well together.
Yeah. Is there? There's so many questions. But one though, I'm interested in the connection between for you, Muhammad Ali is the boxer versus Muhammad Ali is the kind of, I guess, cultural icon, maybe. But I guess like which one came first for you? Were you drawn to him kind of as because of boxing, or because of culture, or just kind of it was all wrapped up into one, and you just kind of you're drawn to him for both of them?
Yeah, it was more like the culture part, because like he was pretty like influential again, and like that's the like first thing I tried to come up with like an influential Muslim was him. And then the boxing part just came second because like, you know, like in boxing we kind of talk about him quite a bit because he was more than just like a boxer. He was also an influential person, like
For sure.
like his quotes and everything, his perspective on life. So
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned wanting to depict a positive Muslim influencer, and that's one thing that that Muhammad Ali definitely wanted you to know that he was Muslim. It was something that he chose. He converted to Islam in the middle of his career. It was a very like deliberate political and religious stance. Is something that he wasn't like. I wasn't just born into this. This was something that I've chosen, but. Do you remember the first time that you saw this image anywhere? And it's fair to say, I asked that question, like, I can't remember the first time I saw that image anywhere. It's kind of it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. But do you remember the first time that you did, or the first time that you really connected with it and said, like, this is something that I want to print, put on clothing, anything?
I wasn't until recently though, because I again, like that image is like everywhere. So like I just didn't really like self-consciously, like it was in my subconscious, but until like recently with like the thing I'm trying to do with my brand and everything, that's when I kind of more like started to pay attention to like the piece and everything. Because you know how like for example like you don't like, let's just say like someone reveals something to you and then you later catch on and start to recognize it. Like let's say like, oh, like you know how there's sometimes in logos there's like hidden like meanings behind it.
Definitely.
And then when someone points that out to you, you can't stop seeing it. It's kind of like that for me, where like once like I got into like my brand and like what I'm trying to do, I all of a sudden started to recognize it, pay more attention to like this image.
Sure. Before we were recording, you mentioned, I believe you mentioned some controversy around around this moment. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah. So one of the reasons why this photo is one of the greatest like moments in history, but also most controversial because like there's a theory that Muhammad Ali like this was all kind of planned for Saudi Listen to get knocked out. So that's the reason why I kind of like this piece even more, because when I found out about this piece, I just liked it more because like it shows like a prideful moment, but also like a little like, you know, controversy a little bit.
Like
so.
nothing is streamlined. Nothing's kind of perfect. You're just kind of like like nothing's perfectly good. Maybe.
Yeah, because there's like more to like, because in the image there's just more to him than just him like winning. Like that prideful moment, there's more like behind the story, which I kind of like about it when I found that out. So it just added like something to it. Once I learned that fact about him, that kind of changed my perspective about the piece a little bit, because like it wasn't just like a prideful moment. But
and I'm glad you're bringing that up too, because that's something that's a backstory that I had no idea. Like I looked at this image my entire life as just, again, like that kind of image of triumph. That's just, I don't know, just didn't really question it. And you know, I knew of Muhammad Ali and I knew of this fight, but I'm not a boxer like yourself, and it's not something that I wouldn't say that I know a lot of boxing history, right? And like the ins and outs of the he said, she said and all that. But it does, but you're right. Now I'm looking at it, it kind of does complicate the narrative about it a little bit. And
it does change your perspective about the piece once you learn that fact. It changes like the perspective.
One more question about this piece, and then I'll ask you kind of give you a chance to have the final word. But when you have people look at this piece, Muhammad, what do you want them? You've mentioned there's a lot of through lines here. There's a boxing touch point for you personally. There's a cultural touch point, religious touch point. There's a complication of narratives that you were just talking about. Is there something that you would like people to get out of this, or do you just want them to enjoy it as it is and whatever comes?
I mean, I kind of want them to enjoy it, but also I also want them to know the background about it, which is why I include that in the bio about the piece a little bit, because like it shows a prideful moment, but also like the controversy behind it too, kind of like just knowing that information about him just alters the piece a little bit. So it's kind of yeah, just I guess like I don't want people just to look at it. I want them to know the background behind it. So
yeah, so come away with some kind of like education about this moment that they've probably seen before, but don't know the whole story too. Well, that definitely worked with me. Like I said, I didn't know anything about this until I had the chance, until you brought it into our exhibition. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
It totally makes you feel like a different way about him winning now. Like,
yeah. It's like now I'm looking at like, okay, he was. I mean, he was very conscious about he was, boxing was entertainment. And so it's I guess it's not shocking necessarily to entertain that idea just because like he knew it was show business at the end of the day. But
we don't. But wait, from what I read online though, we don't really know. But that's just a theory. But
right, yeah.
But
all right, so I'm not putting that out as fact, but thank you for making me think about it. Is what I wanted to say. But before I let you go, I want to give you the chance to have the final word. So if there is some social media you'd like to plug, either like where people can find your other work, or just something that you want to leave listeners with, I want to give you the chance to say that before I let you go.
Yeah. So I guess I would say is like. If you have, I guess from an artist standpoint, I guess what I could say is like be proud of where you came from, because don't you should use your heritage as a way to like as a positive thing. From my experience, I took a negative into a positive, so I feel like more people could do that. So, I mean.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great place to leave it off. Put her negatives into positives. Well, thank you again so much for making some time for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So my name is Rida Fatima. I am originally from Pakistan. I moved here about 12 years ago. And I am an artist. I do Arabic calligraphy and architectural paintings. Mostly architectural paintings right now are from Pakistan or other countries that I've visited. And the other country right now is only Turkey that I've visited. So
that's still, that's world traveler status.
Basically Arabic calligraphy and architectural paintings.
Okay.
And heavy on the texture. A little heavy on the gold leaf, probably.
Yeah, we'll get into kind of those stylistic choices like texture and gold leaf. We'll start with Favors of Your Lord, which I'm looking at right now, and just to describe kind of the basics of what's here is that there's a circular wood piece with some brown, with some gold, some black. But I'll let you kind of get into more of what's there. So Favors of Your Lord, can you kind of talk about what stylistically what's there and your process behind it?
Okay, so the painting has a phrase the main phrase that says, "So which of the favors of your Lord will you deny?" Mm-hmm. And that is but sort of a chapter that almost all Muslim knows in Quran. It's called Surah Rahman, and the chapter talks about the miracles that are happening around us in the universe. And after every miracle, your Lord says, "So which of the favor of your Lord will you deny?" So there is night and day. There is, the fruit, the vegetable, everything that we are eating, that we are doing, it has a lot of factors that are happening around us. And a lot of the decisions that we are making is part of those things that are happening around us in the universe that lead us to that decision. And so I strongly believe in that. And this phrase is, this painting is new, but I wanted to write this phrase for a long time. And so because the chapter has a lot of repetition of the same phrase, I think that's what I was thinking when I was painting it. And this painting itself has that phrase probably 20 times written in different scripts, either in the texture with a bamboo kalam. That's the traditional Arabic calligraphy pen, basically, or the Kufi script or the Diwani script. There is a lot of that. But with colors, I've tried to make the focal point of just the main line that is in the painting. And probably the brown color has come from the earthy tones, the mud, the dirt, the clay that we have all around us, but that can turn into everything that we are eating because of the miracle of planting a seed. And that is not in our hands. That is just happening around us. And that was probably the main thing that I was thinking when I was making the painting.
Yeah, well, and what I'm thinking as you're talking about this, and what stands out to me is your acceptance that while we do have a personal story and a personal journey, like 99% of it, or kind of the environment that it takes place in, is we don't choose. We just kind of fall into it and be able to make some decisions.
Of course,
here and there, of course, right?
Yeah.
But most of kind of the parameters for those decisions are just not. We don't get to choose those, and it makes me think about when people like traditional storytelling techniques. So like I'm thinking of like hero's journey, for example. It gets a lot of hype where like the hero goes through some kind of transformational, like they do something or have to go through or go through some kind of challenge, and they come back anew, and like that's a common storytelling piece, but it's very like person centric, like the hero chooses to go through this, the hero does this, that, and the other thing, and then the hero gets this benefit out of it, when, as you mentioned, in kind of reality, that's the parameters of those choices are just kind of
not in our hands.
I guess I don't really have a question, but I want to invite you, if there's more to say on that, I want to invite you to say more.
Probably not.
Okay. All right.
I've said enough.
That's it. Well, then, so that was Favors of Your Lord. This next one is called Nostalgia. And so while the last one was circular and
calligraphy.
Sorry?
It was calligraphy.
And heavy on calligraphy, yes. This one I see the architectural influence that you were talking about earlier. And it's more, it's rectangular, hangs on a wall. There's some blues, some grays, some tans, and some aspects of buildings. But I'm sure you can provide a little bit more detail about what's going on here than what I just said.
So the painting itself, Nostalgia, has three, maybe four buildings that are in Lahore, Pakistan, that are, painted here. So when I'm in Lahore is where my in-laws live. My parents live in Islamabad, again in Pakistan. When I'm there, it's a really old city with a lot of history, a lot of architecture, and a lot of mosques just within a mile. After 2 miles, you'll find another mosque and another mosque. And with that brings a lot of architecture and a lot of artists that I love. So when I'm there, I'm just continuously, taking pictures, windows roll down, just click, click, click. And then when I come back in the studio here, I look through all of those pictures, and most of the time they're hard to choose. So this one has a mosque actually in the background. That's the yellow and the tans, and that had a very intricate arches.
Yeah, over to the right.
Yeah, over to the right. Yeah. So that was that went in the background, and then there is another building. This was not a mosque. That's sort of in the center, and then just the arches. Again, that was not the mosque. That's on the forefront on the right was an really old girls' school over there. But just the architecture there was amazing. I mean, if you probably see the actual building and then see this, you won't be able to recognize, oh, is it really that one? I do like to take artistic license and sort of change here and there. But the painting, because it has so much detail and so much from back in Pakistan, I called it Nostalgia.
Yeah. Well, and I can see how that process of driving around, taking a bunch of pictures, and then coming back, and I mean, just looking through the pictures, right, would be nostalgic. But I'm curious, like, so you've chosen looks like three buildings, that kind of, and you mentioned use some artistic license to
Probably,
kind of, like,
here and
blend
there.
them together.
Yes.
They're not, maybe not exactly the way,
Yeah.
but you've chosen three. It looks like there's three distinct pictures that kind of blend into each other and paint this picture, this nostalgic picture that your time in Pakistan. But how did you, out of those, hundreds of pictures, thousands of pictures, like how did you choose these three? Like what about these three stood out? Like, no, I can tell the story of my time here, or at least enough to remember and be nostalgic about my time here with these three.
These three, probably. That's a good question. So I think most of my architecture collection had Badshahi Masjid in it. I probably have painted that painting, if I'm not wrong, like 6-7 times, different views, different areas. I don't have any of the paintings from Badshahi Masjid right now. And to be honest, and this might not sound very artistic or very emotional, but the main point here was not to go back to Badshahi Masjid, to do something else.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I mean, I did want to do a mosque, and that's why that sort of goes into the background a little bit, the tan on the right side. But the school and the other buildings that are there sort of do show what's going on in Pakistan also. I mean, mosque is, of course, a big part of the architecture, but there are other buildings.
Right.
And when I went into painting this, I wanted to showcase those other buildings a little bit more than when I already had done in the past.
Gotcha. Well, and that's again, this happens every time with these interviews. That I could just keep asking questions about these, but I know we are on a bit of a time crunch, so I'm going to make the hard choice and go to this next one, which is called was this near and responsive. So again, I will kind of describe it in very vague, non-artistic terms, and kind of let you take it away from there. But there is some calligraphy I see in gold. There's some blues. There's some I don't know if it's darker blues or kind of blacks, kind of around the blues. Whites, kind of like kind of in between those blues and those golds. But enough of me trying to explain this in my terms. What's kind of in this near and responsive piece? What's going on here, and can you kind of talk about your process and your inspiration behind it?
So the phrase says, "Indeed, my Lord is near and responsive," and I think the choice of blue and white is from the sky. Like whenever we are talking with our Lord, or in Arabic or in Muslim, we probably say Allah. We automatically look up to the sky. Oh, please give me this. Please make me pass this exam or something. So we look up, and there is always, of course, blue and white. And that came into the painting, that indeed, ask me, and I am near, and I will respond to your request. That was the main idea behind the painting. If we talk about, the actual artistic side of it, or the painterly side of it, it would be, again, the texture and the writing with the column, the repetition that goes in the background. Repetition, again, just because whenever we ask something, we ask like a child, like we keep asking, we do want this, please, we really do want this. And that's what that's what he says also, that keep asking and I will give you. And so the story of my life also has sort of that pattern where I kept asking and eventually I was granted. So this was very close to my heart, was very close to my heart. Again, gold's choice of selection probably went with the painterly side of the painting, had not very much to do with the emotions, but that
just look nice with the blue.
Just look nice with the blue,
that's fine.
I mean, it has
that's
to
also
go,
true.
Yes.
It does.
So the texture and the column writing again went in the background, and with colors and with the flowy nature of the colors, I made the actual writing focal point of the painting again.
Gotcha. Well, you mentioned about I love what you said. I'm not sure if I have much more to add, but I just wanted to emphasize what you were saying about repetition, and that if you really want something, then you'll kind of say it again and again, or ask for it again and again. And we were talking a little bit before the interview about the theme of repetition in your work, but I guess I don't really have anything to say other than that just like I understood that. Like, you're right. Like if I've wanted something in the past, like, yeah, I'm gonna ask for it multiple. Like, if I didn't get the first time, like I'm gonna keep at, like I still want it.
Yeah.
Right? And so yeah, I guess I don't have anything more to say other than just like I'm glad you said that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you resonated.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's all I have for you today, Rida. But I wanted to give you the chance to have the final word. So if there is either something that you want listeners to know about you, about your work, where they can find you on social media, all that stuff, or just, like enjoy art. I don't know, like whatever you want to leave listeners with, I want to give you the chance to say it before I let you go.
Sure. Thank you. So again, the main part of the paintings or part of the artistic journey has been the Arabic calligraphy and the architectural paintings. And I think because when I moved from Pakistan about 12 years ago, painting was the only constant that stayed with me. We moved about 5 times in the last 12 years. So I've always gone back to painting to sort of settle in the new city, in the new state. And architecture just made me go back into time when I was there, when I was in Pakistan with the family. And, calligraphy, again, was always there. I trained to be a calligraphy artist, so that was there naturally. But other than that, I think the social media account is Reeds Arts, REEDS ARTS. That's where all of the paintings are, and where behind the scenes are, and the stories also. So that's it.
Well, Rida, thank you so much.
Thank
I appreciate
you
making some time for me.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Dunia Amer. I am a Palestinian Milwaukee-based artist. I have lived here basically my whole life. And I am just making art, whenever I feel the inspiration to.
Gotcha. Well, so I'm sure there's a lot of questions I could ask about, what inspires you to make art, who inspires you to make art, and kind of your artistic journey. But I will zero in on one particular work that you have in our current exhibition, reflecting My Muslim Americanism, called Faiza. And it is, I'll describe it in kind of basic, non-technical terms, and then I'll invite you to kind of fill in the blanks and tell more of a story behind it. So it is a vertical orientation portrait of what looks like a woman in a dress, and we were talking before the interview, and you told me that this dress is actually called an abaya, and that this particular abaya would be worn to like a party or some kind of like social gathering, and you can tell because of the bright white background and the bright colors, the reds, the blues, all the embroidery that you've painted on this. And this would be in comparison to an abaya that would just be a solid color, usually like a solid black, that you would just wear around to go grocery shopping or I don't know, do anything. But this is more of kind of like a special celebration abaya. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. Can you tell me more about like who, if this is a particular someone, who it is, and what kind of inspired you to bring it into the world?
So this woman is my mom's friend. Her name is Faiza, and my mom, blossomed a new friendship pretty recently. And they just clicked. They were inseparable. And I actually, when I painted it, I hadn't met her yet. And my mom asked me to paint it for her. Secretly, I feel like my mom just wanted me to make a cultural piece. She's always been asking me to. She was really involved with making it. So my biggest inspiration for making this really was my mom. I wanted to make her happy, and I also wanted her to look good in front of her friend. You know, I really wanted her to.
Like, my daughter is a great painter. Look at
Yes,
this. Yes,
exactly. And she's actually been my biggest supporter in art. She's told me, drop out of school, go, stop being, do what you want, be an artist, you'll make it. And she's she inspires me.
Not usually what you hear of like artist parents. Usually it's like,
not.
oh, what are you doing? Be a doctor or a lawyer or something.
Definitely not. She gave up on me. Not gave up on me, but she was like, fine, do what you want, but you better still be making art.
Wow.
So she's always pushed me to do cultural art. She's like, the community, they need more artists, they need more representation. In her own way, she says it. She's like, well, you just make some art that people in our community want to see. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, and I feel like in a way, and I know her mind, she's like, I tricked her. I made her do it. But I'm actually so happy that I did. And yeah, so this is abaya. It's heavily embroidered. It's actually completely different from the photo that I referenced. I did want to make something unique for her. I didn't want to just copy a photo for her. And these party abayas, they are usually brighter colors. Traditionally, they are white. There are ones that are black and embroidered very brightly, but for parties, they're usually white. And this specific dress that she was wearing a cashmere belt. These belts are extremely expensive. They can run to $80, $90 a belt. They're made with really fine material, and they're handmade usually. So it's a cultural thing, and I guess traditionally it would show status. The headpiece she's wearing is called Wuqayat al-Darahim, which literally translates to like a hat made of money.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
Usually when women get married, they get gold jewelry. They get gold as a form of protection. They can, for example, leave a marriage and they'll have that gold with them to protect them, to have sort of a cushion if they need to leave a marriage, or if their husband passes away, or if they just need that kind of security. Yeah. So oftentimes they're made of gold coins, and you can make these gold coins into belts. You can make them into hats.
Yeah, I see it now. Okay.
My mom actually
like hanging down the gold that's kind of hanging down over her forehead.
Yeah.
Those are meant to be gold coins.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And the actual piece, my mom was very involved with this. I should have put her as a co-creator, but she actually she had a necklace, and it wasn't gold, but it was like a replica. And she took off each little coin, and the actual edge of the painting are actual coins she glued onto it. And so when you move the painting, you could see them moving a little bit. And that's what the basic piece or her clothing is. And something I also think is really interesting is the tattoo on her chin.
I was going to ask about that.
So basically, traditional Palestinians, they tattoo their face. Women tattoo their face. I can't say that I know all of the symbolism of it. My mom's mom had it. My mom's grandma had it. It's usually around the chin. It usually has lines and dots. I don't know the meaning behind it truly. I never really met them. But a lot of times when people go to parties, they imitate them and they make them using eyeliner or whatever they could find. And it looks so beautiful, and I really wanted to add that to it too.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much to ask. I will go with, though, if I'm curious more about Faiza herself. And two questions actually. Who, other than just being your mom's friend, who is Faiza? And what, I guess, can you describe the reception that you've gotten for this portrait? I'm guessing your mom really loved it.
Yes, she did.
And I'm guessing Faiza probably loved it too.
Oh yeah.
But I'll let you take that story away.
Okay. Again, when I made the painting, I hadn't met her yet. But my mom was constantly coming and going to her. And from what she told me, because I have only met her, I believe, twice. But from what she's told me and what she's texted to me, because we've become texting buddies.
Oh, yes. Well, you paint a portrait of someone, like, you're at least going to get their number and keep in contact with them, right?
I hope so.
I'm sure that was done with the Mona Lisa, too.
Oh, my gosh. But yeah, she's a very confident woman. She has so many business ventures. My mom has taken pictures of her house because it's beautiful. It's decked out in art. She is a huge supporter of artists in her community. And when you look in her living room, it's like a traditional Palestinian living room, which usually consists of a lot of tapestries, cushions on the. You sit on the floor. There's cushions on the floor, and it's. My mom says going there reminds her of home, and I love someone that's so connected with her culture, and so like she brought her culture here with her, and she's a very confident woman. She's a very sweet lady, and she's just a very nice lady. Like, I don't know what else to say about her. She's confident and she's nice. And
that comes through in the portrait. I think you captured that.
She's beautiful. She's a beautiful person.
Yeah. Again, so many directions to go. I guess I'm curious of, like, you said that doing cultural art like this is new for you. Is it something that you after this piece that you want to kind of go back to, or is it just something like you'll do occasionally, or was this just a one-off and it's just, you're glad Faiza loves it, but that's it for you?
I actually do want to make more. I have started making more. There's a sense of community that Palestinians feel when they meet other Palestinians. Especially in Milwaukee, we have a very large Palestinian community. And I've had a lot of people contact me or, comment on Instagram and just say, wow, this is so beautiful. I want this for my mom. And I'm kind of a recluse a little bit. So they're
pulling you out now?
Yes, they are. Making this, it really made me happy. I loved the exhibition was amazing. I loved everybody came to support the artists and just to support the community and gather together and appreciate the art of our culture. And I loved it. I'm a recluse. I didn't expect to, but I really enjoyed it. And just other than that, I do want to make more art that represents us, that shows how beautiful our culture is. And I'm happy my mom pulled me out of my bubble and was like, go for it. And yeah.
Yeah, well, and I'll also second that. Thank you, thank you to your mom for pulling you out of your bubble and having you, starting the process for that eventually ends. Maybe not ends, but has led to this work being on our walls for the last month and a half, I think, at this point. We're running up on time. So the last question I have for you is less of a question and more of an invitation for you to have the final word. So if there is some way that, listeners are listening to this and they're looking at this painting, you're like, I want to keep in touch with what Dunia does from here on out. If there's a website, social media, anything like that, as well as just any kind of either wisdom, thoughts, a good joke you heard that you want to leave with the audience. Anything else, I want to give you the chance to leave us with something.
Well, what I will leave you with is go out of your comfort zone and bring something to your community and you take one step towards your community, they'll take 3 steps towards you.
Ooh.
And
Dunia.
what can I say?
Okay. Keep going.
That's all I can say. Just always be involved and never think that what you're going to make is going to be insignificant, because I really truly didn't think this painting was going to go farther than her wall. And now it's in a gallery. And, you know, just keep doing you, keep reaching out, and love what you do.
That was beautiful. I will, Dunia, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Reflecting My Muslim Americanism is on until October 23rd at the MARN Art and Culture Hub, located at 191 North Broadway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You can listen to our interview of Fanana Banana co-founders Naifa Naji and Amel Azam on our website and on YouTube, and you can connect with Fanana Banana on Instagram at FananaMKE. That's at FANANAMKE.